Hey broomheads, here we are. It's a Friday night. You better believe I put on my pajamas as soon as I got home from work. And I started thinking maybe it's time I film part 2 of watching Unbelievable from Degrassi season 13. My cats make everything impossible. Every time I try to have something nice or do something nice, they ruin it. The Degrassi videos have been kind of brutal. I'm just up there and all these angry people are watching my videos wishing I was dead or something. Anyway, I just wanted to say, I'm not trying to make anybody mad. I never wanted to come on here and be some sort of a drama queen or whatever. So, I'm just trying to be chill as possible. I'm trying to be the chillest Degrassi video maker ever. I just want y'all to hang out with me. I don't want you to cuss me out and call me names. So, I don't hate you. Try not to hate me. Okay, anyway, now we're going to do episode 24, the final half of Unbelievable. We are, I guess it's the principal's office, and we see the police questioning Becky. Becky tells them that she was not at the party, but she's done a lot of research, and she thinks that Zoe Rivas was assaulted by 2 men, according to the video. And then she says that she was sent some security footage, which shows who the 2 men were. And then she's like, this is Winston Chu, and this is Miles Hollingsworth. Then we cut to Zoe being questioned by the police, and the police are like, do you know these 2 boys? And they're talking about Winston and Miles, and she's like, yeah. The police are like, are they who assaulted you? And she's like, I don't know. And she says she thinks she tried to kiss Miles at the party, but she doesn't know. And the cops are like, what do you mean you don't know? And she's like, I blacked out. I know I was with 2 guys, but I don't know who they were. Then we cut to Miles being questioned, and Miles is acting kind of weird. Like, he looks a little rough, and he's kind of shaken, and he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. Can I go to basketball practice? Then we cut to Winston being questioned, and Winston's like, yeah, we carried Zoe to the pool house so she could sleep it off, but that is not me in the video. And the police are like, well, all the evidence is showing that it is. And then Winston's like, I can prove it. He's like, look at the timestamps on the video, which seems like something that the police would notice, but And now we're back with Becky, and the police are like, false accusations are serious, and Becky's crying like, I didn't mean it. I don't think that the police would really come at her like that, because obviously she's an amateur, and that's the conclusion she came to, the evidence that she had. Why did they chew her out for that? And so Becky's like, well, if it wasn't them, who was it? Now we're in the hall, and Becky is walking with her brother Luke and just confiding in him about how upsetting this is, saying more stuff really fast that I can't understand. She says she wishes she had never gotten involved in this, and she ruined everything, blah, blah, blah. And Luke is reassuring and gives her a hug. Ugh, now we're in freaking student council meeting or something, and Claire is like, we can't have a pep rally, and Dallas is like, we totally need to have a pep rally. The argument is that we can't have a pep rally to support the team where 2 of the men are rapists. And then Dallas is like, well, there's no proof that it really was someone from our team. And Drew says that no charges have been filed, and the whole school shouldn't be punished just because of 2 idiots. I don't really think skipping a pep rally is punishing the school. I never had much fun at pep rallies. Who really likes pep rallies anyway? And then Claire says it's not just about 2 guys, it's about everybody at this party. Everybody at the party let this happen. And that's an interesting statement to make. I guess it's a good point that we should all kind of be looking out for each other and watching how people treat each other. And Claire gets mad and storms off, and the bell rings and the meeting is over. Now it's just Becky and Drew in the room, and Becky's like, I'm sorry, I feel like this is my fault for getting the police involved. And Drew expresses that he thinks it's his fault that Zoe got so wasted because he rejected her and then she went and got wasted. And then that happened to her, so he's feeling kind of guilty. Now we're in a classroom and Miles and Winston are celebrating that they are officially not perverts. So then Miles goes and plops down next to Maya and he's like, "You're gonna cheer me on for this big game?" And Maya's like, "Miles, they canceled the pep rally." Like it's the biggest disaster in the world. If our pep rallies got canceled, I was like, thank goodness. Anyway, so Maya is like really mad because she doesn't understand why Miles was carrying Zoe half naked around in the party in the first place and like why he was with her. And she storms off. Jeez. Do they ever get along? All right, we're back in this room where apparently it's okay to have all these pictures of Zoe half naked plastered all over the wall. And Drew and Becky are still kind of thinking, trying to figure this out. And Imogen's like, "Why do you even care? You don't even know Zoe that well." And Becky's like, "Well, it could have been me. It could have been you." And Drew jumps in and says, "Whoever did this, the two guys that did this, are still out there just hanging out, just not getting caught." And then Imogen's like, "You are right." Okay, now we are at the hospital, or the doctor's office, whatever. And Zoe has just had an examination, and the doctor comes in, and she's like, "I have your results." The doctor says, "No signs of pregnancy, no signs of STIs or HIV, but we'll have to test you again in a few months." And she says, "Oh, this is like weird to talk about on a video, but there's evidence that something had been happening in the gynecological area. It has become clear now that someone really full-blown assaulted Zoe sexually." Oh yeah, and the doctor says that if Zoe had come in sooner, they could have had more information from her examination. They always say that on Degrassi, and it's just like, ugh. All right, and now Zoe is just in the schoolyard walking around, and you kind of, it's so weird that even though she's just really discovered this, the sun is shining, everything's normal, she's walking up to school. So when Zoe gets up close to the other people, like she puts a smile on and hollers at Frankie, and Frankie comes up. She's wearing all pink, and I love it. Zoe's like, "Hey, let's go to the caf or something." And Frankie's like, "We should probably like go off campus." And Zoe's like, "Why?" And Frankie like pulls her to the side, and she's like, "Everyone's mad at you." And Zoe's like, "Why?" And Frankie says, "Because the pep rally got canceled. Who likes pep rallies that much?" But she said, everyone's saying that you had sex with those guys and then regretted it, so then you turned around and cried rape. Zoe says, "You don't believe that, do you?" And Frankie's like, "Well, it's kind of what happened with you and Drew, and you were running around that party saying you wanted to make out with guys." And then Zoe says, "So does that mean I was asking for it? You think I was asking for it?" And Frankie's kind of like, "Well, yeah, and that's really crappy and really terrible." I kind of forget all the weaker points of Frankie's character. So Zoe basically says, like, "Go away." And she starts crying. And I know Zoe's like a mean girl. I can't really remember all the mean stuff she's done, but it doesn't even matter. I really feel bad for her. All right, we're back in the detective room, and Imogen, Becky, and Drew have decided they're going to pinpoint all the pairs of guys that were seen together at the party and see if they can maybe determine who the pair was that assaulted Zoe. The investigative team has put up on the wall all the pairs of guys seen together at the party, and Drew says, "What do we do now?" And Becky's like, "I don't know." And then a voice from behind them says, "I do." And they turn around, and there's Grace, and she looks so young. And they scramble to cover up the collage they put on the wall, even though they didn't hide it when the student council meeting was happening in there with like 20 people. But it's fine, it's fine. And Grace is like, "You don't have to hide that, I already know about it." And Becky's like, "Who are you?" And Grace reveals that she was the Watcher. She's the one that sent that surveillance footage to Becky. And so Becky's like, "Well, you gave me false information and you made me screw everything up." And Grace is like, "Yeah, I want to fix that." Grace always has talked super fast. I'm like, what? So Grace suggests, out of all these pairs of guys, pick one from each pair, send them an email saying, we know you assaulted Zoe. Your buddy already ratted you out. And then see what happens. Now we are in a classroom. We see Zoe sitting by herself. Miles comes up and he's like, hey, can you tell Maya that nothing happened between you and me? And Zoe starts to break down and basically says that this kind of happened because of Miles, because Miles did nothing when he saw the state she was in, that he just put her somewhere and left her. She said that he should have made sure she was safe, and she says that he let those people do that to her. And she gets up and storms off. This is minor, but we do hear a bit of the classic Degrassi soundtrack. Reminds you of what show this really is. Now we're in the hallway and Becky and Imogen are stupidly holding magazines like this in front of their face and like spying on people from the pairs of guys. And they are telling each other like they haven't seen anything weird yet. And about 50 feet away, somehow, 50 feet and around a corner, somehow Becky and Imogen can hear a conversation taking place between two basketball players. And they're kind of yelling at each other, saying like, they told me that you ratted us out or something. They're talking about what the email was about. One of these boys is Luke, Becky's brother. And it's so weird, even now I can just feel my heart like sink a little bit. And Becky's like, it couldn't have been him, and she like starts making excuses and stuff, and Imogen's like, girl, it could be him, and if it is, Grace is gonna find out. And Becky's like, okay, well, I'll talk to him. This is just really hard to watch. So Becky goes up to Luke, who's like in a classroom, I guess it's in between classes. And she's like, hey, can I borrow your phone to call mom? I forgot mine or something. And he's like, okay, here you go. And she starts looking at his pictures, and there it is, all the pictures of Zoe's assault. She starts playing some of the video footage, and it's some that we haven't been shown before, but it shows Luke messing with Zoe. And she's watching this. This is one of the most intense, heart-wrenching moments of Degrassi, I think. And Luke comes around the corner because he tried to talk to Becky and she didn't answer, so he comes around the corner where she is on the other side of the wall, and he sees what she's watching, and he's freaking out. And she's like, tell me this is not you. And he's like, she was into it. She was trying to kiss us and stuff. And Becky's like, she was too drunk to be into it. And he says, you know, I'd never hurt anyone. Just give me my phone back. And Becky's like, I can't. And he's like, are you going to share this to the police? I'm your brother. Whose side are you on? And she says, I haven't decided yet. That is intense. And I am sorry I ever said I hated Becky. I mean, I didn't ever like hate her, but she's like one of my less liked characters. But this episode and her like role in all of this really, I really respect her. Now we're in the gym and Zoe is going at it on a punching bag. And Luke comes up behind her and he's just like staring at her. And when she turns around, she's like, can I help you? You know, she talks to him like a total stranger. And he is a total stranger to her, but I like how for a moment she's like, who are you? I don't care. Leave me alone. Can I help you? When she doesn't even realize that like he's the one that's ruined her life. Anyway, and Luke's like, I want you to drop this whole thing. And he says, I didn't mean to do anything wrong. And that's when Zoe realizes that it's you. And he was like, we were just having fun. You liked it. And she's like, I don't remember it. And then he says, well, can't we just forget it then? And he's like, no one's going to believe you anyway. I'm a good Christian guy. I'm a hockey star. I'm on the basketball team. And he's like, you're going to ruin my life if you do this. And she's like, mine's already ruined. And he says, well, that's because everyone thinks something happened, but I can tell everybody that nothing happened. And he's just like, please. And then he turns and walks away. Now we're in the locker room and the basketball team's getting ready for the game. And Tristan says something about man, I wish we got our pep rally. Miles is like, even though someone on this team assaulted Zoe, goodbye you, Miles. I don't know why Miles has decided to man up, but it's really cool. He's like, so which one of you did it? And Dallas is like, shut up. See, why y'all people like Dallas so much? And Miles is like, I'm not playing on this team. And he gets up and walks out. This episode has me like literally shook. Miles walks out and he walks into the like lobby area, the foyer. The foyer, that's what they call it, right? He walks out into the foyer and he sees Maya and they chat really quick and make amends. And he's like, yeah, I'm not playing on this team because they don't care about what happened to Zoe. Miles and Maya decide to leave, and they turn around and see Zoe, so they like come up to her and they're like, we just want to make sure you're okay. And Zoe's like, yeah, it's fine, this was just a rumor gone wild. And they're like, really? And then Zoe sees Luke flirting with Frankie, and it's gross. It's gross. And it's just like that one time where Dean, the guy who assaulted Paige, where Dean started flirting with Manny. Anyway, so in response to the question, are you sure it was just a rumor gone wild? Zoe sees what Luke is doing and she's like, hell no. And she marches right up to him and shoves him. He's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm making an announcement. And she proclaims to everyone around that Luke is her co-star from the video. And he's like, you're crazy. You can't just accuse somebody. And Zoe tries to beat him up, and Becky runs up and grabs her, and she's like, you don't have to do this. And Zoe says, there's nothing else I can do. And Becky says, there is something else we can do. I have proof that it was him. And Luke's like, you wouldn't, but it's really beautiful to see like the two girls sticking together, even if it means Becky has to go against her brother. And now we see, in slow motion, the cops are taking away Luke and his friend. I don't know if he even has a name. And it's really, what's the word, satisfying? And Miles is looking at him like, yeah. And Dallas is like, shoot. Honestly, I think Luke is the perfect guy to, I don't want to say anyone should be doing this, but character-wise, it's almost like they set Luke up for something like this from the beginning. Like, he was always such a good creep, like a believable creep. So, and he also does look like an athlete, so I think they cast him really well. Now we're seeing Zoe walk up the front steps, just kind of like expecting everyone hates me even more than they did before, whatever, it's fine. And then she walks into the front doors and sees Tristan, Maya, Miles, Dallas, and Drew all lined up there to greet her. And Drew hands her a frappuccino, and Tristan says, we're here to walk you to class, sit with you at lunch, and make sure nobody bothers you. And Miles is like, we want you to know you're not alone, we have your back. And Maya's like, yeah, you can borrow him for the day. Which I really like when Maya reaches out to Zoe, because there is like a degree of girl hate between them. But I like when, the petty girl stuff isn't important anymore. To where, like, they're having a moment where they have to support each other as women. And then she turns around and sees Becky. And she's like, 1 second. And she walks right up to Becky real quick and just, like, falls into a hug. And Zoe's like, thank you, I didn't know he was your brother. And this is, like, a moment where, a lot of times Becky's good girl, like, gotta always do what's right thing is really annoying, but this is her shining moment in terms of doing what's right. And then Zoe walks off with her new squad. And that concludes Unbelievable. That was unbelievably hard. I almost wanted to just boo-hoo with you guys, but I don't think I know y'all well enough to cry in front of you yet. But I guess if I can make it through that episode without crying in front of you, I can make it through anything. Again, thanks, Magic 2.0, for requesting this, even though it was hard. I don't know why y'all want all the sad ones. Do y'all want me to cry or what? And yeah, season 13 is not the best, but this this can make you feel some type of way no matter what. All right, maybe I'll do like a funny one or a happy one next. I don't know. Y'all have given me a lot of requests, which is awesome, and I promise I'm going to get to all of them, but I'm trying to balance like Degrassi content with other content, and I've got a list though, and I'm not going to forget. So stick around, be patient with me. I'll see ya. Till next time, goodbye, broomheads.